Imagine standing alone on a battlefield. Your friends are gone, your position is burning, and hundreds of enemy soldiers are advancing toward you. Most men would run. But on January 26, 1945, near the small French village of Holtzwihr, one young American lieutenant refused to move. His name was Audie Murphy, and what he had in his hands that day would become one of the most feared weapons of the entire war, the Browning 50, a caliber machine gun snow-blanketed the fields of Alsace as German troops of the 15th Panzer. Grenadier Division launched their attack. They came with tanks, artillery, and more than 200 men, confident, experienced, and determined to crush the thin American line. Within minutes, the battlefield was chaos. The U.S. tanks were hit, the infantry forced to fall back. But one burning M10 tank destroyer still had life left in it, and on top of that wreck stood Audie Murphy. With his uniform soaked in blood and his boots sinking into the snow, Murphy climbed onto the flaming vehicle, grabbed the mounted .50 caliber Browning, and opened fire. What followed has become legend. For nearly an hour, he fought alone, firing until the barrel smoked, and the air was thick with the stench of gunpowder. German infantry tried to flank him. Tanks rolled closer, but the .50 roared on, its deep, relentless thump cutting down wave after wave. By the time reinforcements arrived, Murphy had stopped an entire company almost single-handedly. Nearly 50 German soldiers lay dead or wounded, and the survivors, stunned and terrified, retreated into the woods. It wasn't just Murphy's courage that terrified them, it was the weapon itself. The Browning .50 caliber wasn't new, it wasn't high-tech. It was a masterpiece of brutal simplicity, reliable, heavy, and devastating. A single round was the size of a man's finger, and it hit with 10 times the energy of a rifle bullet. Against it, cover was almost meaningless. Light armor, concrete, even tree trunks, nothing felt safe. German medics came to know the damage it caused so well that they gave it a name, the American wound. It was catastrophic, and there was little they could do for the men who took a direct hit. But fear of the .50 went beyond the wounds. It was psychological. Units that faced its fire again and again began to break down. Men became anxious, jumpy, sleepless. They said it was the sound that got to them, that deep, hammering rhythm echoing across fields and villages, reminding them that nowhere, not even inside a bunker, was truly safe. The weapons story didn't start in France. It started years earlier, in the skies over Germany. Picture this. September 1943, a formation of American B-17 flying fortresses droning toward Stuttgart. The Luftwaffe scrambled to intercept. German fighters dove out of the sun expecting an easy kill. But when they closed in, something unexpected happened. The bombers fought back, with hundreds of Browning .50s blazing from every direction. Each B-17 carried up to 13 of them. A formation of just 3 dozen bombers meant nearly 500 heavy machine guns firing together. The sky itself seemed to burn. German ace pilots described flying through a storm of steel. One wrote later, "To attack the Americans is to fly through death itself. You see 1 tracer in 5, but 4 invisible bullets are already on their way." This was America's philosophy of war, not precision, but overwhelming firepower. The M2 Browning didn't jam, didn't freeze, didn't quit. At 30,000 feet or in the mud of Normandy, it just kept firing. It became the heartbeat of the American arsenal. When the Allies landed on D-Day, that heartbeat echoed across the beaches. German officers like Panzer Commander Hans von Luck later recalled watching in disbelief as every American vehicle, from jeeps to half-tracks to tanks, seemed to spit fire. The U.S. Army had achieved what no army had before, near-universal heavy machine gun coverage. Everywhere you looked, there was a Browning .50. Von Luck wrote after the war, "We could not move in daylight. Every time we did, the .50s opened up." The Americans had enough ammunition to make mistakes and still win. Against Soviet troops, the Germans had faced waves of men. Against Americans, they faced a storm of bullets. Even weapons meant for aircraft defense found new life on the ground. The M16 half-track, with its powered turret of 4 Browning .50s, was nicknamed the Meat Chopper. It could fire over 2,000 rounds per minute, shredding infantry, vehicles, even trees. German ambush tactics collapsed. They'd hit an American convoy expecting confusion. Instead, every truck and jeep along the road would erupt in return fire. The ambushers became the ambushed. By 1944, the mere sight of a long line of American vehicles was enough to make German units hesitate. They knew what was coming. The moment a gunner spotted movement, the night would erupt in tracer fire, those glowing red streaks tearing across the dark, 4 invisible bullets following each one. Soldiers described it as watching death itself approach, and then came the Thunderbolts, the P-47 fighters. Each carried 8 Browning 50s. When a flight of 4 of them swooped down on a column, that meant 32 guns, firing more than 4,000 rounds per minute. Survivors described it as a rain of metal. You'd hear them coming, but by the time you looked up, it was already too late. From the deserts of North Africa to the forests of the Ardennes, from the bombers above Germany to the tanks rolling through France. The same sound followed, the deep, unending rhythm of the M2 Browning. It became more than just a weapon. It was a symbol. The voice of American industry, discipline and relentlessness. German General Alfred Schlemm later admitted, "Our soldiers learned that there was no safe position, no cover, no movement that could save them from those guns." The 50 wasn't innovative. It didn't need to be. It was simple, reliable, mass-produced and everywhere. And that was its genius, from the burning tank destroyer beneath Audie Murphy's feet to the flying fortresses over Stuttgart. To the endless columns of vehicles rolling toward victory, the story was always the same. The gun never stopped. It became the roar of a nation whose soldiers and factories spoke with one voice, a voice made of steel and fire. It was the sound of the Browning 50 caliber machine gun, and it was the sound that German soldiers learned to fear more than any other.